So when I told my father, my wife, hey, I'm going to quit this job. What are you doing? It's 40K a year. I'm losing way too much money working for this guy. So I'm just going to stay on the commission only side of things. And it's been amazing. It's been fantastic. It's the best thing that has ever happened to me. Stop putting fucking excuses and get things done. It doesn't matter. I'm not from the US. English is not my first language. Sometimes I babble in the sales calls and everything. So stop putting excuses. But if you get the skills, you will get the opportunity.
All right, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome back to another episode of the Remote Closing Academy podcast. And the one word I'm going to use to explain this entire episode is roller coaster, because the story that our guest is going to share with you guys is going to bring you through really his entire life of ups and downs and lefts and rights and all these different things, from, starting off, having his own business, it burning down, him losing everything, getting in over $100,000 of debt, jumping into a telemarketing job where he was making $600 a month, working 60 hours a week. Do the math there. It's not that great. And then also being able to jump into a situation where he, again, started up his own business, did a lot of working on that, and then ultimately found remote closing, where he was able to do $10, $15, almost $20,000 in his first couple months actually jumping into it. So one of the things he kept talking about is in his country, he's making more than the president, which I think is really interesting. And we're going to go over the entire story of, again, the roller coaster that we talked about. So with all that being said, please sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode. Before we dive too deep into all the specifics here, Mr. Javier, welcome to the podcast. How's the week been?
Well, thank you. It's been a great week. Thank you very much. I'm super honored to be here.
Amazing, man. So we were talking right before this, and yeah, I think we can, with this episode, because you've had a ton of experience within RCA and just kind of how all the processes work. Well, towards the end of the episode, we'll kind of just go into a lot of that deeper and more tactical within that. But, as we do on a lot of these episodes, we were talking before, how far back do we go? So honestly, I'm curious about your life, before sales, before, as far back as you want to go, and the mic's yours.
Oh, thank you. Well, I think that probably, I had a business a long time ago, and I had a fire on it. So I lost absolutely everything. I literally lost everything, my car, my apartment, everything. So then, I started looking for a job. I had like $100,000 in debt. There was no way I could get funding for anything else. So I started looking for a job, and the best I could get was a call center job. And I was making like $600 per month. I live in El Salvador, and that's like a decent income here. But, there was no way that was going to let me pay my debt. So, I was extremely frustrated. I lost credit. I just couldn't do absolutely anything. And one day I caught myself, pushing the button in the elevator. I just caught myself thinking, if I have to do this for the rest of my life, I'd rather just shoot myself. This makes no sense. So I started reading, getting a little bit more of financial literacy, trying to understand where to go, how to go. I tried a lot of different things, implementing online businesses. I actually tried to create a digital marketing agency. I never got the momentum that I was looking for. Money was tight again. I got married. I have a son, and I simply didn't know what to do. Then one day I've been following Cole for a long time, while this drive of building my online business and everything. I've been following Cole from his previous endeavors, and one day I saw that he said something like, hey, we need setters or something. I didn't even know what a setter was, but I was just there, so I applied. He hooked me up with a couple of interviews, and I got a position. It was a fixed salary for, it was 2,700 Canadian, so it was around 2,200 USD. And I stood there for a year. It was a setter for SaaS, B2B sales. And I was in there for a year, and I got reached out by Reese from RCA and said, hey man, how is everything going in the company and everything? And I said, yeah, I'm gonna stay there. Man, why don't you go ahead and take the step forward? Why don't you go ahead and join RCA? This is going to take you to the next level. And I have tried so many things, and I have gotten so much that, again, to try to pull in something that I said, okay, there's nothing else to lose.
Yeah.
So we pull a credit through my wife. So since I had no credit, so we pulled a credit through my wife to join RCA. And within 2 months of joining RCA, I actually got promoted to a closer in the SaaS company. So right there, it was a base salary, so I doubled my income like overnight. And then with the commissions, I was reaching around 6 to 7K per month consistently. That was until November. So in November, the company lost a round of financing, and they let go 21 people, me included.
Oh,
so yeah, that was in November, and I was as stressed as you can get. So, well, I reached out to the pipeline team. I reached out to my coach. I said, hey, I desperately need a job. And what happened is that what really happened is I went again through the self-sourcing module inside the RCA course. And I went like through everything again, like, I don't know, in 24 hours. Like I threw a couple of all-nighters in there, and I just went through everything. I applied to as many things as I could. 2 weeks in, after being let go, I actually had 3 offers on the table.
Nice, that's good.
And they were all self-sourced. So I chose one because it obviously is. At the beginning, I actually chose 2. One was with a base salary, and the other one was commission only. So I took the one with the base salary and one with the commissions, and of course I was only going to handle 2. But in the commission only gig, I ended up actually making more money in a week than what I was making in a month on the other one. So it made no sense for me to stay there. So I mean, it sucks, but it's the truth. I only worked like for a week for them, and I said, I'm very sorry, but I mean, I'm losing way too much money by working for you. And they were offering a 3,300 USD base of 40K per year, which here in El Salvador, that's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
if like 5 years ago, you would have offered me a $40,000 job, I would have taken that, and I would have been the happiest guy ever. So when I told my father, my wife, hey, I'm going to quit this job. What are you doing? It's 40K a year. Yeah, I'm just I'm losing way too much money working for this guy. So I'm just going to stay on the commission only side of things. And it's been amazing. It's been fantastic. It's the best thing that has ever happened to me.
That's amazing, dude. There's you kind of put everything out there, which is good, and I love that because I have a ton of like follow-up questions. Because I think there's a lot of different parts within your story that people could really kind of pull from. So I want to go back to like one of the first things that you said about working in the call center. How long did you work there, like in the call center?
Well, I worked there like for 2 years, probably.
Okay.
Around a year.
Yeah, so 2 years, and I'm assuming that was like a 40-hour-a-week thing. So like it was just like probably thousands of calls.
Yeah, no, it was more like 60 hours a week, because the way it works is that here in El Salvador, it's the normal shift is 45 hours per week. That's like the normal. And then what they do is that they give you 1 hour lunch break that doesn't count towards your work shift. So you have to be working like 10 hours a day in reality. And then it's a 1 hour commute both ways. So it's like 12 hours a day work for $600.
Yeah, man. Okay. So that's, 60 hours a week. I'm just trying to put in perspective of like, probably the thousands upon thousands of calls that you made in that two year time frame. So, what are maybe some things that you pulled from like that whole experience that kind of creeped its way into what you're doing now?
Well, getting super comfortable on the phone. Like, I mean, I can jump in a new offer or whatever new gig, new task. I mean, doesn't matter. I'm always comfortable on the phone. And that comes from being in the call center for a very long time. That's the most important thing that I got out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it, like just kind of putting that in perspective of like 60 hours a week, 2 years, right? I think a lot of people when they think about like remote closing or remote sales, or they see a podcast like this and they see some of the headlines we put out there, right? People jump in and they get placed in 30 days, but they also don't put into perspective like what happened before that. It's to like actually get to that point. And like when you like, that's one of the biggest parts of remote closing. Yeah, you can make like good money, but you also have to like be good on the phone, be good at talking to people, building rapport, like all those things that I think you did. I mean, that's all you did for 2 years, I'm sure, especially with, you know, with a call center, like being a cold opportunity as opposed to, you know, with remote closing, it's like people are already interested. So I'm sure you have a heyday with with some of these prospects, probably easy comparatively. Okay, so you went through the call center stuff, and then you started. When did you start the agency, and what was like after you left the were you doing them in tandem? You were doing the call center and like also trying to build the agency?
Yeah, I was doing that on the side. So what happened is that, well, I probably skipped something. The first remote work opportunity came to me in 2017, and it just came out of the blue. I mean, literally someone found my CV on Indeed that I have uploaded like 5 years ago, and they reach out and say, hey, are you interested in a remote position? It was for a Canadian company, and they were paying me $800. So that was for 3 years. So it was also kind of call center, but it was already remote. It was outbound mostly, so I was generating leads for them. And at that moment, I was actually trying to build my agency on the side. So because I was working from home, so I could actually go ahead and do both tasks at the same time. So I was reaching to their client, but also trying to reach out to clients of mine at the same time and everything. So I started working remotely in 2017, way before the pandemic hit. And that's when I started to build the agency.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand like how good they have it in terms of like, you know, remote work. Right now, obviously, like there was a massive change with, you know, during the pandemic and stuff, and like a lot of people move remote.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, if we look back, you know, 5 years ago, someone's trying to build out a side hustle. It's not really the easiest because it's like you got to, like you said, you got to commute, you spend all that time. But now it's like if you're working from home and you're not like actively working on something on the side when you don't have commuting hours, when, you know, you're probably not 100% 8 hours a day just like looking at the screen and stuff like that. So I think, you know, people a lot of times these days like shouldn't really have an excuse to like at least work on something to get them out of kind of like that rat race. So what would the digital marketing, were you going after a specific niche? Like what were maybe some like the good parts, some of the bad parts of that experience?
Well, the good part is that it ended up taking me here. So I wasn't even thinking about digital marketing at the beginning. So what happened was that I actually, as I mentioned, I was so lost that I started reading and studying about personal finances. Then I started a blog around personal finances in Spanish. And because I wanted to promote it, then I started learning digital marketing for myself. And then what happened was a friend came by and said, hey man, I know that you've been doing this for a while. Yeah, he's a dentist. So I'm screwed. Like I've been sitting like on 6 patients per month over the last year or so. I mean, would you do something for me? Would you help me? So yeah, I mean, I gave him a push, and like a year in, he was already making like 20,000 per month, and like he actually opened a second location. And now he's making around 50K per month. So I used him as a case study, and I started promoting mostly to dentists and doctors. Yeah, but I never got, I was not generating enough content. I was not generating enough inbound leads and that kind of thing. So it was very hard. It was all outbound. And I never got the momentum that I wanted. In Latin America, I mean, I was selling the digital marketing services at $200 per month. So I got, I think that I got the top like at 12 or 13 clients at the time, but it was just simply not enough. I mean, keep in mind that I had like $100K in debt. So like paying that off, doing $2,000 a month, it wasn't going to be.
And especially with like, you know, like, cause I think it's funny, like anyone that comes on here that talks about, you know, digital marketing, it's like, I feel like that's almost a prerequisite for a lot of us. Like out of the 20 episodes we've done, I think probably, I don't know, 15 of them have like tried to start like a digital marketing agency specifically, not even just like a make money online, but like for whatever reason, it's like digital marketing, especially in like 2015, 20 to 2018,
it was like a huge kind of resurgence of, oh, like everyone needs to start an agency if you want to make money online. So how did the connection happen from you running the digital marketing agency to like starting to see some of Cole's stuff?
Okay, so what happened is that I actually joined a mastermind that happened on one of the previous company where Cole was the sales manager, and he was the one that was doing the sales training for that mastermind. So I was following Cole. So when he opened RCA, I was already following him. So I was already just there. And when he opened up the position for a setter, that's when things.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
That makes sense.
Yeah. No, you send that over to me on school, and that all makes sense. It's more often than not, there's a couple of people that like have kind of been following Cole for a while, but a lot of people like come from an ad. So I'm always just curious, like what specific advertisement did they see that like brought them in? Because I'm also like on the marketing side on the team. So
okay.
I'm always just like almost like just curious. So okay, so you go through, you have the conversation, you land the setter role. What was the I guess I think you kind of talked about it, but I want to dive more into it. What were some of the like things that you learned within like that first setter role, and then what happened that made you want to leave that?
I think that the major mind shift that happened from that role is understanding no shows, no's, no good fit, do not have the money. It's just part of the game, because at the beginning when I was doing the marketing agency, I suck. I cannot close a deal. I'm the worst. And I could probably sell an ice cream in a school trip, So, but then when that started to happen in this company, and the CEO was so relaxed, he was so, this is part of the game, and like 20 calls in and no sales and nothing, and that's fine, it's part of the game. And then the next week we have 3 big sales, and you see, so this is part of the game. So and it kept going, and I started to understand that it truly is part of the game. So I think that was the most important thing, because I had a very fear of rejection at the beginning, and I think that was the most important thing. So it's part of the process. No shows are part of the game. Getting no's is part of the game, and that really get nailed in. So I'm 100% comfortable right now, like listening to no's or having no shows, or it's. I think that is the most important thing that I learned from that.
Yeah, I want to see if we can take that a step further, because I think that's a huge thing. Even when I started my digital marketing agency, same thing. It took 1, 2, 3 years of really running that, and like even multiple agencies, to figure out, okay, it is part of the game. It's all a numbers game, right? The law of averages, right? All that kind of stuff. Was there anything specifically that you did? Because it's one thing to say like it's part of the game, but it's another thing for like someone to like really fully like internalize that and feel that. So was there any like exercises or tips you would give to someone that understands that it's part of the game, but they're still like stressed or anxious or trying to get over that fear of rejection?
Yes. So what I learned is that, I was always looking for feedback. So I understand those are part of the game, but I want someone who is more capable, more experienced than me to actually review my calls and tell me what can I improve on? What could I have done better? Where were my flukes? That will keep the anxiety down, because I don't know if I'm getting no's just because it's part of the game, or because I don't know if I have no idea what I'm doing. So as I was getting feedback and getting more comfortable and understanding what things I was already doing good, where I could have improved, and that kind of things. Yes, and actually that is what to date, that is what still keeps me comfortable. Like I continuously ask for feedback. I continuously review some of the other closers calls in my team, and I just make sure that I'm on top of my game. I understand that even now that I truly deeply know that there's a lot of room for improvement. So I continuously ask for feedback. I continuously look for the sales trainings in RCA. I'm continuously reading and looking for more information, more tips on sales, and sometimes there are sales tips out there that you can find, and they're just bogus. That once you learn to identify, no, that doesn't sound right. It kind of changes the approach that you have. But overall, I think that getting feedback and getting like a different perspective from someone that is more experienced than you always helps.
Cool. So I do want to take one step further. We'll come back to that because I think there's a lot of cool parts in there too that I want to harp on. But I want to learn more about the next offer. So what was the, I guess, transition from, so you're in the setter role and then you made the jump. You had the conversation, I think you said with Breeze, about jumping into RCA. What what was going on in your head that you were like, okay, maybe I do need a little bit of more experience or more exposure to RCA?
Okay, so no more experience. Like, I mean, I had never had like proper sales training. So even like a setter, like I came in knowing absolutely nothing. So for me to actually be able to take to the next step, I acknowledged that I needed training, that I needed knowledge. So when Reese gave me that option, and what I thought, and this is what I honestly thought, is that I was going to have two jobs. I was going to continue be working as a setter in my company, and I was probably going to get a commission-only side gig. So what ended up happening is that, all right, so the company that I'm working with, they are an RCA client, so we have a contract, and we cannot get you a second gig unless they approve for that. And I said, all right, yeah, okay, that's fair. So I go to them and they say, hey, I'm trying to get a side gig because I enrolled in RCA and I know you're familiar with them. So I'm just trying to get a side gig. So can you please sign this release letter where you're okay for me to get a second job from them? And they said, no. And I was like, I mean, I'm fucked. Okay, there's no way in hell I can pay RCA. I can't pay RCA. What am I going to do? And I started stressing out. They said, no, please tell us, why are you looking for a side gig? And I explained everything. There's no way I can pay for this, there's this and that. And they said, hey, Javier, I mean, we would really don't want you to burn out. So what we'll do is that we're going to give you 60-day trial period as a closer. If you show up strong, if you get the numbers, then you stay in the position. But I need you to understand that we're promoting you. But if you're not good there, then we'll have to let you go. And I said, well, I'll take that. I mean, it's a challenge and it's tough, it's stressful, but yeah, I'll take it. 30 days in, I was the top closer in the company.
No way, dude. That's an epic story. But continue.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, I just stay there. I continue to get.
Within the 30 days, you go from. So at that point, you had the RCA training though, correct?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
I had been in RCA for almost 60 days by then.
Got it. Okay. So I guess what was that experience and how did all that go? So you go from setter, you start learning more within RCA, you're now a closer, and you're in the 30 days you're the top closer. Like what in your that you saw like allowed you to help you do that?
I think that there were three things that played a difference. First one is that I knew the product better than the closers because I had been more time in the company and I've been doing this for longer and I've been practicing, and for a while there I was even in the support side of the back end side for support as a complementary for the setter. So I think that I knew the product way better than the other closers. I think the second one is the fact that I had a process and I had a coach. I had someone to go for and ask feedback and say, hey, I'm facing these objections. What would you recommend me to do? Hey, I'm facing this specific problem. What would you recommend me to do? And having different perspective from all the coaches in RCA play a major role. But I also think that the fact that I was under pressure, that I knew I was on trial, so I need to work. I mean, I need to show my numbers to keep it.
Yeah.
So I think that I also played a role to actually go ahead and go the extra mile, like following up on people I probably wouldn't have followed up on before, and working a little harder than the other guys just because I was on trial, they were not. I think those are the three things that play a role on getting that.
Yeah, I mean, when you have, you're on a trial and they basically have like a microscope on you, they're like just making sure that you perform. And then, yeah, in the first 30 days, you're like, all right, like, do you remember, like, how far ahead? Like, was it like a blowout or was it like kind of towards the end of the month, like you were like kind of neck and neck.
Yeah. Now very first day, the average closer was closing between 3 to 5 deals per week. The very first day, I closed 3 deals.
Nice.
Yes, that was the very first day. But then for 2 weeks, I didn't close no deals.
Oh man, that's how it goes.
Yeah, and exactly. So, well, I was stressing out. Like, oh my man, I mean, they're going to let me go. They won't even let me go to the 30 days. They said 60 days, but they won't even let me finish the 30 days. So I started stressing out. I can't tell what happened, but I remember that weekend, there was the Ascension event in Scottsdale. So I attended that event. So I had been working for two weeks as a closer. I was on the road now. I went to that event. When I came back, everything was just there. So being on the Scottsdale event, it really shifted my mind in ways I cannot explain. But it just made me feel more confident, more ease, and then from there, everything was downhill.
Downhill or uphill?
No. I mean, it wasn't downhill in the sense that it was easier for me to.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Usually, if like someone says downhill, it's like not a good thing. So I see what you're saying. It's like downhill in the sense of like it got a lot.
Yeah, it was a snowball effect and started creating like all this momentum and closing deals like crazy and everything like that.
Love it. Okay, cool. So you're at that company, and then so you start. So how did the transition happen from that into the self-sourcing? Because you said there was like they lost funding or something like that, and then so the story between that point into you're starting to do some self-sourcing.
Okay, so it was all doing good, then they lost this round of funding, and they let a lot of people go. They let 21 people go, including the whole sales department. So what they did is that the CEO and the COO, they both became the sales department. And they just let everyone in the sales department go. And a lot of people, it was 21 people total, out of which 4 were the sales department. So that was on November 14th. So they gave us 2 weeks advance notice. Okay, so I know that at least I'm going to have my base salary until the end of the month. So when I told my wife, she started screaming. She went crazy. And I said, okay, hold on. Hold your horses. I officially have a job until November the 28th. So I need you to stay still and leave me alone for 2 weeks, because if you're doing this every day, then you're going to fuck my head. So I actually, what I started doing is that I started taking my computer and going to a friend's place to actually self-source from there, just to be away from my wife. But I told her, please don't say anything until November the 29th. If by November the 29th, I do not have a job, you can scream like crazy, but I need this time. So I started self-sourcing. I mean, I went through the whole self-sourcing module. I do it many times. I started like going for on Indeed, going for on the Facebook groups, going for on LinkedIn. I did a lot of things, and I don't know, probably I sent like 400 resumes on the first 7 days, something like that. No, it was crazy. I mean, I was really, really stressed out. So then the second week I started attending interviews. And I probably attended like 12 or 15 interviews around that. And by then I had 3 offers on the table. One of this is the gig I'm working with. And I just declined the rest of the interviews or anything. But I think that when you start your journey in RCA, honestly, I feel that this is the gig that you're looking for. Like this is the type of gig that you want to have, and that you have fought so hard for. It's no salary base, that has uncapped commissions. It has a crazy amount of leads, and you see the top closers in the team making 40, 50K per month consistently. So this was the dream. When the second that I joined RCA, this was a dream.
Yeah, dude, that's such a cool story, and knowing that, like, you know, you obviously you put in the work like the entire time, you know what I mean? Like, not, you know, you were faced with adversity with, you know, with the with the setting thing, let go and only having the 2 weeks, I think there's two people that usually are in that situation that happens is they crumble. One person will crumble and the other person does what you did and just like made it happen. So like what do you think internally and like made it happen? I guess, if that makes sense.
Okay. If to that question, I need to go a little back to explain that change. So I remember when I was joining my first mastermind ever, they asked me like, "Hey man, I mean, like, how much money do you want to make?" And I'm in El Salvador. Like, the president makes $5,000 per month. That's the salary of the president.
Oh man, yeah.
So when they asked me that first time, I said $3,000. Would you be happy making $3,000 per month? And I said, man, yeah, I would be super happy. Like, my dad is a doctor and he never made that kind of money in his life, and he's a physician. So they said, dude, honestly, I mean, you don't need this if all you want to make is $3,000. I mean, all you need to do is get yourself a job in Target. And I said, well, I'm not in the States, so I can't do that. But they said, man, I mean, you cannot get into this world if you're thinking that you're just going to make $3,000. I mean, you gotta be thinking that you want to make 10, 15, 25. I was laughing. That's impossible. Dude, I'm in El Salvador. I mean, $15,000 per month, that's 3 times what the president makes. So it's like, I'll be the president of the full Central America's country. That makes no sense. That's impossible. And I really had that mindset. Eventually, I started shifting my mindset about what was possible or impossible. And I started understanding that absolutely everything that you have or don't have is your responsibility. So I lived that in a way that, I mean, it was very easy for me to blame my country, my parents, my everything, the economy, whatever you want, you name it. Eventually, I understood that those were smoke screens in my head to prevent myself from understanding that it was me who was dropping the ball. It was me who was not working enough. It was me who was not putting in the effort and taking the right decisions to make things happen. So I think that's me now. Whatever happens to me is based off what I do, the decisions that I make. So when that happened, I didn't even think about like crumbling. The thing is, okay, this is that situation. I mean, yeah, of course, I can sit down and wait for 2 weeks and then see if another miracle happens, or I just can take action and make things happen. So, I mean, for me, probably if I had been in my 20s, I mean, I would probably just go ahead and take a sabbatical for 3 months. But right now, I have all this debt. I have a wife. I have a son. So they all depend on me. And I just couldn't let them down by not doing the right things to get to where I need to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone always talks about, and that's a great story, by the way, just kind of going back and really figuring out like exactly, and you even just knowing as soon as I asked that question, like where that kind of stemmed from. And we talked about it with our last, I think, yeah, Graham or Kevin, I forgot who I talked with it, but it's like, you know, kind of the same realization that you had. And I'm sure a lot of people that are listening to this is you don't have to, like, society or whoever, the, you know, internet, whoever it is will tell you like, okay, you can only make, you know, X amount of dollars, or, you know, it's normal to make $60,000 a year, or, you know, whatever it is. So when you're then faced with like, okay, it might actually be possible to make $10,000 a month, $15,000 a month, $20,000 a month. Then, you know, it's a completely other thing, like seeing it in your bank account and like actually, you know, living that. But, you know, I think just that switch for a lot of people is what they need to fully understand like what they're capable of. And I'm glad that, you know, you obviously hit that point. So so after that point, so you jump in, and this is the offer you're in now, and you've only been there for how long?
December the 1st. So 2.5 months.
Yeah, 2.5 months. So you're crushing it. Let's go over. I mean, you sent me some of the idea of what you're currently doing. So your first month, second month. Let's break down. I mean, we could talk numbers or just in general how the experience is going.
Well, no, the experience is great. It is weird in the sense that it's like nothing I've had before. This is the most self-paced job that I've ever had. Like, no one's asking how many hours are you putting in. No one's asking nothing. The only one thing is that you know your KPIs and you need to keep them up. You need to be reaching KPIs month to month, and as long as you're doing that, they don't care if you work 10 hours a week or 100 hours per week. So it's all self-paced. It's like all the meetings are optional, and it was like I literally could not work for a week and no one will notice, and that's the fact. And I was I mean, it's so weird, but because I understand that where the money comes from, then I want to put in the work. So
exactly.
So it's all self-paced that even at the beginning I was so confused. I just started taking calls, and then someone came back to me and said, and I took like 5 calls and closed 3 deals, and someone came back to me and said, excuse me, who cleared you to start taking calls? And I said, nobody. They just told me to go through the training, and because I went through the training, I started taking calls. No, but you got to get the clearance from someone. And I said, oh, I didn't know. But you already made 3 deals. So well, they did my test and I passed, and it was good to go. Nothing wrong happened from that. Yeah. So the first month I ended up making 10K. No, it's like 9.6K in commissions. That was my very first month. And that is like twice the president. I mean, that is what I had.
Now that you said that, I'm just thinking about, all right, how many times the president did he, the income did he make?
Yeah, exactly. So I made that the first month, and what I did is that I approached one of the top closers. As I said, I'm always looking for feedback and for my room of improvement. So I approached one of the top closers on the first month and said, hey man, would you review all my calls? I'm willing to pay for one-on-one coaching, but I want you to review my calls. I want you to give me one-on-one feedback, give me tips, areas of improvement, and everything. He agreed to it. We agreed to a fee. So I'm sending him like 2 or 3 calls per day. He goes through them, and we meet like twice per week, one-on-one, to get the feedback and the improvement. After doing that, on the second month, I cleared 17,000 in commission. Well, it was technically 17,000, but it's going to end up being like 15,900 because some refunds that came in the end.
Yeah,
part of the game. It doesn't frustrate me anymore. It's part of the game. But I think that, I mean, just continue to improve. Never think that I know everything. I'm the king of the world. I don't need any more help. I think that has made an important thing on my and something that I remember is that when I went on that Scottsdale, the session event, I remember there was one guy who's stand up and said like, hey, I'm making 16K. I want to be making 25K. So, I mean, what areas of improvement should I be looking at? And I remember thinking while he was asking, this dude is crazy. I mean, he's making 16K. Well, I mean, he should be super happy. I mean, why is he even thinking about making 25K? Why does he even stress about that? That's what I was thinking as I was listening to him. But right now I'm making 17K, and I see the top closers on the company making 40, 50K per month. I understand that is the gap that I need to fill. That is the gap for me to actually where I can get if I continue to improve and continue to get better. Now, of course, I'm not going to make 25K in February, that I know. I'm probably going to reach 17K again. But I'm looking for March to be my first 25K month.
Uh-huh. Yeah, how do you keep like the motivation within all that? Because, something that I wrote down and I wanted to ask you is like, especially coming from where, you were making $600 a month, right? And obviously like that was probably like scraping by, and you probably wanted to do a lot more than that. But even like making $1,000, or like you said, making, $3,000 or then that like 5, then 10, 15, now 25, like how have you been able to stay in that mode of not getting complacent. And I'll add one more piece of context is, I've talked to a lot of like closers and setters and stuff, and they'll get to a point where they just do like a crazy month, and then the next month they just like plummet because they're like, I'm like on top and whatever. And obviously that's not your mindset because you're still going out there, you're investing in yourself, you're getting feedback. So what has been the thing that's helped you kind of not fall into that trap?
Well, for me, it was that I have very clear goals since the beginning of what I wanted. And I'm not even close of reaching any of those goals. So I'm not looking at the paycheck for this month. I'm looking at the overall compliance in terms of my goals. So when I started doing the RCA and I started really thinking, what would I do if I could make $10,000 per month? Obviously, one of the first things that I want to do is pay off all my debt. So that's like 100K there. So that is going to take me at least 1 year if I can continue to do 17K. Then I want to buy a house because, I mean, right now my wife and I, we own a house, but it's so small, it's not even funny. Like here, this is my background. That is the bedroom right there. And here on my left, this is the kitchen and diner, and that's it. So it's like 40 square meters total. So, and it's fine. I mean, that's what we could afford at the time. But right now, I mean, I really want to buy a nice house. Real estate here is crazy, even though the salaries are so low. I mean, a nice house, it can be north of 350K. So, I mean, for me, it's not about what I made this month. For me, is how much progress I've made towards my goal. And right now, that progress is almost zero. Like, just getting 10K. I mean, I please keep in mind that I spent like, since the moment that I was let go until I actually got my first commission check, it was like 2 months of no income. So the first paycheck, I mean, it just paid off for the first 2 months of the bills. And then right now, I'm just going to pay a little of debt. I want to have a little savings. But I mean, I haven't really made any big progress. So I estimate that after 3 or 4 months, if I continue to make 17K, I'll start like feeling relief in terms of debt and everything. But I don't feel like I should stop. I mean, I'm already considering taking like 2 weeks off in July to have a trip with on summer, to have a trip with my kid and wife to Disney and that kind of things. But that's like a vacation. It's not me like letting everything go just because I'm on top of the mountain right now. That's what's keeping me motivated. I mean, having the ultimate goal clear. And I mean, if I reach all my goals, which is have $1 million in savings worth for retirement, if I have my house, if I like have the upgraded life that I've always wanted, if I'm traveling the world, then I can probably relax a little bit. But right now, I'm 42 years old and I'm way too late already in life to get all the things that I've always wanted. So yeah, I already wasted that time. So let's just not waste anymore now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's such a good, just a piece of advice for anyone that is a little bit younger that's watching this is like, I think anyone that is younger in their, 20s and even, we've had some people that we've had, even on these episodes where, they're 17, 18, 19 and they're making, 15, 20 grand a month. And, you obviously with being in the RCA community, like we, help them like not get into the position where they, go straight downhill. But, it's like, yeah, I think anyone that's listening to this that could really, really help them out a ton just to have clear goals, have like expectations of, hey, like the game is not done because I was on top for 1 month, right? It's like you look at, people like, Tom Brady or Michael Jordan. It's like, they didn't stop playing because they did great 1 year, right? It's like they just went back to back to back, still put in the work, still went to practice, shot tons of they continue to do it, and that's why they're the greatest, right? Because they continue to do the things for a really long period of time. So, so for you, I guess, you kind of already talked about your goals, but what was maybe some of your favorite or like most helpful parts within RCA, especially coming from having a little bit of experience, but that helped you take it to the next level?
Well, for me, I think that changing your mindset about money and your income levels, that was a major thing. The other one is like having your coach, like providing support, providing guidance. saying things that I honestly think were impossible. Like I remember someone in my group coaching, he posted, I bet money that Javier is going to be making $12,000 per month in a year from now. I read that and I was laughing. I said, look, yeah, I wish, dude, thank you. I appreciate the encouragement, but yeah, that's crazy. That's not going to happen in 1 year, right? If that happens in 3 years, I'll be happy. And it happened in less than, it happened in 8 months. And I mean, of course, I acknowledge that there were a lot of things. I would probably stay at the company. If they wouldn't have let me go, I would probably stay there. I knew that I was probably leaving money on the table, but for me, it was too much high risk to actually go ahead and go into a commission only and live in the $50,000 base salary on the side. It was way too much risk, and I was in a position on which I was thinking, hey, man, I've got so much in debt already, and I was in debt. Now I've got more in debt, and I need to settle down. And at some point, I need to start spending money. I need to start investing. I need to start actually paying the debt. So I knew that I was leaving money on the table, but I was too afraid to take the leap. When it happened, because they forced me to, I see what, I mean, I'm thinking, yeah, I probably could have done this like 6 months ago, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, we talk about it a lot on it's like that specific scenario. I think maybe not necessarily like getting let go because of like the same situation, but you know, almost all the people that I've talked to on this show, it's like they they either didn't get a certain position or they did get let go, but then they also like found a much better offer that was like, again, just so much better in all the different ways, in terms of income, in terms of lifestyle, in terms of, not people breathing down your back the entire time. So, it all happens for a reason. And obviously you're in that position now because you got let go. At the time, it's like, oh shit, like the sky's falling and I got to like make it happen. But, obviously you put in the work to get that to where you are.
No, and that is something that I've learned, actually. So, I mean, I heard it from Cole. He was, as a sales guy, I mean, he was clearing $100K per month in commissions. So I know what the cap is, like in this company. What I've seen, it's around $50K per month. When I get there, then I will probably start looking for better options. Right now, the only thing that I'm not looking for on the other option is because I still see this like $35,000 gap that I need to close. Once I'm closing $50 here because I've seen it and I know it's possible. Once I'm doing that here, then I know that I'm ready for my next league. Probably not even wait to do like $50K, but if I do like $35K, then I can start considering looking further. I've heard of people that are making $200,000 per month on commissions. So I mean, if that's my cap, once I reach my cap, then I can start looking for some other opportunities in which I'm going to go. I don't have to stay here forever. It's just a matter of, acknowledging that I'm not the most experienced salesperson ever. I mean, literally have like 8-month experience. So it's not bad to get like a better track record. Feel more comfortable coming to a company and say, hey, I closed $2 million last year in sales or things like that, to actually go ahead and, become a better candidate for the other companies in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something we actually haven't really ever talked about, is just how we have this like ad and like VSL that's out there, and actually we redid it recently, where Cole's talking about like the hook is this famous quote by Warren Buffett can help you make more money as a salesperson. It's basically it's not about the what I forgot the quote. I was literally editing yesterday. Basically, there's different opportunities out there that are better. And all you need to do, it's not that you have to get better at sales, right? It's not that you have to, get a million, to increase your close rate or whatever. It's just, hey, if this offer is $10,000 and this offer is $50,000 and I have the same skill set, it's just you can make more commission by doing the exact same thing. So that's kind of the same thing that you're talking about. It's like, I feel like we talk to a lot of people in real estate or insurance or mortgage or, any of these other sales vehicles, and they just, they're not making the money they want, not because they're not good. It's just because they're in the wrong boat, right? In the wrong vehicle. So thank you for jumping on that. So I think that it could be either or. You might be on the wrong
on the right boat. But if you don't have the right skills, then you won't make it. Because I see people here that have like a 4% close ratio and made like $3,000 last month. Of course, I mean, they were let go. So they were on the right boat, they just didn't have the skills. So I think that you need both, the right boat and the right skills.
Yeah, like a kind of a mixture of the two. I agree. So I guess I want to be respectful of your time because we're coming up here on almost the hour. So what would you give to someone as like a piece of advice? Because I get this comment like all the time on our YouTube videos and stuff, is people are saying like, I'm not from the US and I wasn't born there, and like English isn't my first language. What would you say to someone that's kind of in that same boat of like, okay, I'm not from the U.S. It's just anything for them to give them a little bit of confidence that they can do it.
Stop putting fucking excuses and get things done. It doesn't matter. I'm not from the U.S. I do not have permission to work in the U.S. English is not my first language. Sometimes I babble in the sales calls and everything. Sometimes I do bad choice of words. It happens. But if you have the skills, you will get the opportunity. So stop putting excuses and get the skills, whether through RCA, reading, whatever you need to do. But if you get the skills, you will get the opportunities.
Easy enough. and I think it's the same thing with everything, right? It's like people, you being, we talked about you being like 100,000 in debt, and when you're faced with this opportunity of RCA, it's like you could have been like, no, I'm in debt, like I can't do it, or it's just like you figured out how to get into it and you jumped in and you made it happen. You know what I mean? And I think that's just kind of a theme with a lot of things that you've done. So I think that'll help some people out. And then anything you'd say to someone that was in your situation in terms of like having a digital marketing agency, and they like are really getting it off the ground, but they also know that like, okay, remote closing is a thing. Like, should I keep doing my agency? Like giving them some advice of like, should I make the jump to remote sales or should I keep trying to grind on the agency?
Well, yeah, actually right now I'm actually even considering reopening the digital marketing agency as a side gig. And I'm considering that now because I do have more money, more resources now. So if you're struggling with your marketing agency, if you're struggling with your income, I mean, this is I won't say easy, but straightforward way to actually go ahead and make more money. And the more resources that you have, the easier will down the road be eventually to get things done. So I'm not doing it just yet, but I'm already considering like, well, I have to put some money aside just to devote resources to the digital marketing agency to make sure that I do better things. And not only that, but like when you're working for a company that has tons of leads, and I mean, you're working on the sales side and you see their marketing and you see their efforts, you also learn about how to promote yourself. So it's I would honestly advise anyone who's struggling in their own business right now, because of resources, because of marketing, because of sales skills, to actually go into remote high ticket closing, get money, get funded, like self-funding, and go ahead and you'll be in a better position to come back later rather than just continue doing what it's obviously not working well.
Yeah.
That is what I would have told myself. Sorry.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's like a really big part of like a lot of our advertising and just kind of getting that idea out in front of people that it's not so much that you can't do it. It's like, but when you do join an organization that has the marketing, has the sales, has leadership, you figure out how the meetings are structured, you see the financials, maybe not like super specific, but you get to see how an actual business is ran. So when you do get the point, not only do you have the skill set, which is like a huge part of it, you also have the resources, a lot more than, if when you're first starting out. So, dude, we're coming up on the end. So I guess the last, I'll give you a couple seconds to think about this, but if you've watched some of the episodes, so you know that we do this, but just think of one like major tip that you would give to someone that is like either in the space right now, right? Even in the RCA group, or someone that hasn't jumped into it, just an overall tip that you'd give to someone looking to just get better at remote closing. So think about that. I'm going to just do a little outro thing real quick. So for those that are watching up to this point, I mean, we've been talking for almost an hour, and Javier's dropped some pretty big tips and tricks on you guys. But at this point, you might be wondering, like, I'm in this agency, or I'm doing this, or I'm a little bit younger or older, and you want to make the jump into it. If you click the link in the description here on YouTube or on the podcast app, it should be in the show notes. It's going to bring you to another training that's just going to break down the ins and outs of what remote closing is, and how you can use it to get started in this industry. There's this Forbes article that we've kind of thrown around, on advertising and stuff, that in 2025, the e-learning industry is going to be, I think it's something like $325 billion a year industry, up like hundreds of billions from just a couple of years ago. So it's a huge opportunity, and I think the worst case, you watch the video, you don't get a ton of value. Best case, you learn what remote closing is, the first couple of steps that you can make, and I think there's a couple like giveaway things that you get towards the end anyway too. So you literally don't lose anything for watching a free video. So Javier, hopefully gave you enough time to think about it. So what you got?
Well, I would say that probably the most important thing is that you need to understand how to really, really find the problem of your prospect. Without the problem, you've got nothing. And always keep asking for feedback from the most experienced closers. Like, keep doing that forever. That'll be my tip.
Sweet. Yeah, feedback is key. And I think even more important than that is, I think it's one thing to get feedback, but it's another thing to like actually implement the feedback, right? I think, some people may like, they'll get a call review. I'm just using my personal experience. It's funny, when I had my digital marketing agency, I had, some people review my calls and stuff. And my biggest problem was like, I would take in the feedback, but I wouldn't implement. And my mentor at the time, he was just like, dude, like, you're not even like implementing. And as soon as like that little thing in my head, I was like, oh, like I actually have to do what he's telling me to do. It was that was a switch for me. So Javier, dude, I appreciate you hanging out with us for the past hour. Lots of just background information on you and stuff like that I think will help a ton of people in their journeys when it comes to remote closing. So for those of you, you want to give Javier some love, down in the comments, let us know what you thought. Leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already. We go live with these every single week. And Aaron here from the Remote Closing Academy. We'll see you guys in the next one. Talk soon, and